This lesson is on two-digit by two-digit multiplication. And so let's figure out a concept behind two-digit by two-digit multiplication, because my biggest question is, why is it that we have to allow for a placeholder when we go over to the tens place? So let's take a look at a couple problems before we get to similar problems or problems that are on this handout that is titled two-digit by two-digit multiplication. So let's take a look at 56 times by 2 to start with. If I multiply 2 by 56, this means I have two groups of 56. Notice how 2 is in the ones place. It's in the ones. So I'm multiplying 2 by 6, and I end up with 12. And so I'll carry a 1. And then I do 2 times 5 makes 10, plus 1 makes 11. And my answer would be 112. Now notice something about these problems as I do them. Notice that I'm lining up these numbers very carefully. See, I have the ones place is in line. See, the ones place for the 6 and the 2, and then also the product are all in line. Let's take a look at the tens place. See, all those numbers are in line too. See, there's no number here, so this is like a 0, but those numbers are all in line. And then the hundreds place. See, there's no number in the for the two factors that make up 112 because we didn't have a value there. So you could put zeros if you wanted to. But notice how all those numbers are lined up. So let's take a look at if I took those same numbers and I moved the 2 into a different place value. So let's say I take those, again, those same numbers, 56, and this time, instead of the 2 being in the ones place, I'm going to move it over to the tens place. So now when I multiply, typically what people would end up doing is multiplying the ones place first. But when I do that, 0 times 6 makes 0. 0 times 5 makes 0. But again, notice that all my numbers are in line. See, I have my 6 and my 0, and the 0 in the product, those numbers are all in the ones place. And my tens places are in line as well. I'm going to allow some room for my hundreds place here because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need it. So now let's move over to this 2. Now notice that I'm now in the tens place. Since I'm in the tens place here, this 2 is in the tens place, I cannot put a number in the ones place because we're in the tens place. We just can't put a number in the ones place because we don't have a number in the ones place. We got to start with the tens place. You got to start with the number that goes in here is going to end up always starting in the tens place. That's why we add a placeholder. So some people end up putting a 0, some people put an X, or some people just leave an empty space there. It doesn't really matter what you end up doing. You just need to know that when you're starting at a next place value, you always need to start in that same place value location. So now it's 2 times 6, which makes 12. So I add a 1 here, and then I do 2 times 5, and that makes 10 plus 1 makes 11. So I put 11 there. And now notice all those numbers are in line. See, the place values are all lined up. So when you are multiplying in the tens place, you can't have a number in the ones place. You have to start with the tens place. If you start multiplying with the number in the hundreds place, you'd have to start in the hundreds place. You couldn't have a number in the tens place. You can't have a number in the ones place because you're starting in the hundreds place. And so there would be your answer. It'd be, if we add those numbers up, it'd still be the same number, 1120, 1,120. So let's take a look at this problem here. Again, when you're doing this, line up these place values. See, if I line up these place values, again, this is why some teachers like you to use graph paper when you're multiplying to start out with, because it's got those vertical lines. So let's go ahead and multiply here. We're in the ones place, so our first digit is going to go in the ones place. So 9 times 2 makes 18. Carry a 1. 9 times 3 makes 27, plus 1 makes 28. Notice that I'm putting the numbers in different place values. I can't put a 2 and an 8 in one place value. Each specific digit has its own place value. All right, we're ready to move on. Now, I'm in the tens place now. I do not have a number in the ones place. So that's why sometimes people put a 0, or they might end up putting an X right here. It just depends on how you want to do the problem. It doesn't really matter. I'll just put a 0 for now as a placeholder, because that's what zeros are typically used for, as placeholders. Now again, since I'm in the tens place, my first number is going to be in the tens place. So 4 times 2 makes 8. And then I move on to the next one. 4 times 3 makes 12. Now, sometimes people will cross off this 1, since that 1 was needed for the first iteration, for that 288, not for the second. So I don't need to do anything with that 1. So it's just 4 times 3 made 12. Well, now I need to add those numbers up. So when I'm adding, notice that when you add, you only add the numbers in the same place value. Same thing when you're multiplying. When you put the numbers in their spot, you only put them in the correct place value. So 8 plus 0 makes 8. Notice that's in the same place value. That's the ones. 8 plus 8 makes 16. So I'm carrying a 1 now because I'm out of that place value. I can't put 2-digit number in one place value. So I had to put the 8 plus 8 made the 6, or the 16, so I put the 6 in that place value. Now 1 plus 2 makes 3, plus 2 makes 5. And then I just bring down this 1. So there's my number, 1,568. Sometimes we put a comma right there between the thousands and hundreds place. So there it is. Let's try another one. 5 times 5. Well, before I do this, let's set up our lines here to help us line things up. So let me get this as yellow so you can see the difference between that and the regular problem here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw another line down. Alright, so let's go ahead and start doing the math. So we've got 5 times 5. Notice I'm in the ones place. So it's important to think about what place value you're in as you're doing the multiplication. 5 times 5 makes 25. So I put the 5 here and the 2 goes up here. So 5 times 3 makes 15, plus 2 makes 17. Alright, let's cross that 2 out in case we so we don't end up using it again. Alright, so now we are done with the ones place. So there are no more numbers in the ones place. Again, you could put a 0 or an X, some people use. It doesn't really matter. It's just that we're not in the ones place anymore. Now we're in the tens. So the first number goes in the tens place. 2 times 5 makes 10. So I got to carry a 1. So that's why I like to cross off this 2 so I don't use it again. 2 times 3 makes 6. Plus 1 makes 7. Alright, so now we're ready to add. See again, we only had one number in the ones place. So it's just 5 plus, well, 0 makes 5. 7 plus 0 makes 7. 1 plus 7 makes 8. Notice that when you add things up, you do the same thing. You only add up numbers that are in the same slots, the same place values. So there's your number, 875. Let's try another one again. And again, this time, set up those lines when you're starting off. This way you've got a slot for each of your numbers. Let's take a look at the first one here. We've got 9 times 9 makes 81. So put a 1 here. And put the 8 up here. 9 times 2 makes 18. 18 plus 8. Well, if you need some help, put it off to the side. 18 plus 8. Add that stuff up. Well, that makes 16. Carry a 1 makes 26. If you need some extra help, do it off to the side. There's no shame in that. It's better to get the right answer than the wrong one. 26. So 261. Notice again, all the numbers are in that correct place value slot. So let's take a look at the next value. So let's move on to the 3. Let's cross this 8 off so we don't use it again. So we have 3 times 9 makes 27. So notice I'm not putting the number here. I'm going to put a placeholder. I'm going to try 0 this time. Whatever you feel more comfortable with. Some people don't put any number, and they just start by putting the number 7 right here. See, 7 was from 3 times 9 makes 27. So I carry a 2. 7 goes here. Again, I'm in the tens place, so my lowest number has to start in the tens place. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 makes 8. So from there, I go ahead and add those numbers up. So I get 1 plus 0 makes 1. 6 plus 7 makes 13. Carry a 1. So 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 1 makes 11. Notice I'm moving that thousands place outside the hundreds place slot, so I don't get it mixed up. So there's my number, 1,131. So there it is, 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication.